Yes, sir. Good morning. Good people. Saturday, September 24th, 2022. This is Spade podcast. We are back. And it is chilly outside. Well,
ooh.
Yes, it's chilly.
You see what we got on.
Yeah.
You got a jacket on, we got hoodies on.
Yeah.
I'm
not playing.
It got nipped fast.
Yes.
It's almost big dude season.
Oh
you feel
God.
it. You feel it coming over yonder. It's coming. Don't fight it.
Out of here, man. Somebody thinking about y'all.
Hey, they going too real quick when they get nippy.
Hey, listen, I'm warm too.
Whatever.
What's good, y'all? We have a special guest in the building. Brother, do the honors. Please do the honors. Do the honors.
I guess we have on is a dude that I admire from afar. We went to Tuskegee together, only for 1 year, because only did 1 year. But I admire him from afar, being an educator, the man that he is. Actually, when I was in Tuskegee, he don't know this because I never got a chance to tell him this. I kind of looked up to him a little bit because I felt like, when you can feel somebody being 100% their self, no matter what. I felt that from him at a time where I thought I have to portray a certain image, you know what I'm saying, to be liked or to be accepted. Looking at him from afar, I was like, I didn't have to do that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's a pleasure, to have my big bro from the step team back in the day. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Demarcus McMillan.
Well, I appreciate that warm introduction. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
First of all, he's a man of good character. Look at the hoodie he got on.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You got, hey, listen, we got to represent for the HBCUs.
Absolutely.
Oh, we got to.
Got to.
It bred us.
Got to.
Absolutely.
But tell us about yourself, brother. What you do, where you come from. Yeah.
Well, my name is Demarcus McMillan. I am from Mobile, Alabama. What brought me to D.C. is Howard. I got my doctorate from Howard.
HU.
Yes, it's at TU.
You know.
Right. So we, just loving the area, loving the fact that Black excellence thrives here. I'm coming from a place where you don't get a chance to see a lot of positive Black images in real time, in real person. So it's kind of like a breath of fresh air. So I decided to stay. And when I decided to stay in this area, I really learned what my purpose is for this area. A little bit more about me. I love education. I've always wanted to be an educator. Like, ever since I was young, like, you know how, like, your teachers would ask you back in elementary school, like, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? Mine was always a teacher. And everybody be looking at me weird, like, a teacher. The teachers, don't get paid as much. Yeah. They're overworked.
Man.
Like, you really have to have a passion for this work if you enter into it. So everybody be looking at me weird. You want to be a teacher. Do you know what teachers make? Do you know what they go through? And, of course, that was my passion. That was my goal. That was my dream. I guess that's a little bit about me. Just love education.
Man, so we just want to get right into it.
He always been a teacher, though.
The pandemic. How was that for you?
You mean as a person or as an education? Or?
As an educator.
As an educator. I educate Black children, and the pandemic really made the gaps that were already there even wider. For an example, and not even just about just race, class, right? Everybody can't afford the tutor. Everybody can't afford the extra books or resources to educate kids. They really were dependent on the schools. Like another person who can afford the tutor, the extra resources, all those things. So it really made the gap wider for so many different groups of people, class, gender, race, socioeconomic status. So as an educator, I already knew once we get back into the schools, we were going to have some serious work to do because while other groups of people were steadily moving ahead, it was a group of us that halted.
Right.
Education is so important. Like, it's literally the question between poverty or not having poverty, crime versus not having crime, right?
Yeah.
Like, it is the determining factor for so many different deterrents in our society. So it definitely was something that made us think about how we could do school better so that we could work 5 times as hard just to be 5 times as good.
Do you think the gap, do you think that's attributed to, because a lot of our brothers and sisters, they come from single parent households, right, where mom or dad is working overtime to just keep the lights on and some food on the table. So do you think that's part of the gap that that formed as a result of the pandemic? Because mom or dad, they not worried about, okay, well, I need to help my kids with their homework, or I need to help them with whatever deficiency they have in whatever subject they're struggling in. Do you think that's part of that dynamic?
I think it's a small part.
Okay.
I grew up in a single parent home, and I mean, I'm just speaking for me. I valued education, and I said people don't value education who are not like that, but I think what you're getting at is just the commitment that it takes to educate people, right? Most parents, and I learned this on the pandemic, most parents don't have the wherewithal or the knowledge or the skill sets to teach in that way, academically, let me say it that way. Patience, but not even just patience, right? If you put, I got a PhD, I understand that, but if you put physics in front of me, I'm gonna be like, where's the teacher, right? Because I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert in physics, right?
Yeah.
Now we're asking parents to be that type of teacher, and that was kind of unfair to them. So like, give them resources, give them help. We didn't have that. Like with the pandemic, as a school leader, we had to shift. We had to shift quickly, right?
Yeah.
A lot of stuff kind of was left undone, and people were just trying to figure it out. Same thing with education, right? Here's a laptop, log in, right?
Where? But log in where?
Log in where, right? Like, but then you have
the link down.
Right.
Can't get on the link, and they marking my nephew absent. I'm like, he can't get on the link. We've been calling y'all, and the link all messed up. Fix the link.
Fix the link, and,
God,
and not even just that. Even when you fix the link, though, you still have to
keep them engaged.
Keep them engaged, but there's a digital divide, though, right? Because it's not just single parents raising kids, right? You got grandparents. Like, I just imagine, I could just imagine me going through this, like, I don't know, like in middle school, and having my grandmother try to log me in. Like, our digital literacy was a big hindrance for us, because we also were relying on the parents to understand the technology and all this, and that was a big divide. So your original question was talking about single parent homes. I think that was a small part, not a big part. I think there are a lot of single parents who still work the 2 jobs, right? That still do all of those things and still make it their business to say, hey, did you do what you were supposed to do today? Did you get your education and all that good stuff?
One of my questions is, have you ever got like pushback to ever just like teach just the curriculum? Because I know you teach them how to tie their tie, how to be men, how to be polite. You know what I'm saying? Have you ever got any pushback from going outside the curriculum a little bit?
So when I was a teacher, no. When I was a teacher, no. It really just depends on who your administration is and what the need is too. Because here we are in a situation where, of course, this is post-pandemic. It just seemed like 2 different worlds, right? Before the pandemic, it's like night and day. Like the expectations before the pandemic and being a teacher after pandemic really are 2 different lived realities. So I must say no. When I was a teacher, like, I didn't get a lot of pushback. But then also my data was showing that whatever I was doing was working, right? Because I would have students who would enter into my classroom, and I taught 12th grade English for years. Students who would enter my classroom who were not reading nowhere near grade level, right? And I knew that in a whole year I had to push these kids to read on or above grade level, because if they don't, we already know what the statistics say. I'm not even going to get into that.
Right, exactly.
But you have to know how to read. Like, it's not no way around it. Like, you have to know how to read, and you have to read on higher levels, because I'm going to say back in the day, the average person was reading on like a 4th grade, 5th grade reading level. Now that has increased. Our kids are a lot smarter. You know, they have a lot of access to different things. So the answer is no. Now, during the pandemic, as an administrator, I do lean on the curriculum. Why? Because the curriculum is the guide. Like, you can't go in there. Now we're at this place now where if you're not skilled enough and you're not knowledgeable enough, not saying that teachers they don't have knowledge or anything like that, but I'm saying to move students, right? I got to get our black children in Southeast learning how to read, point blank, period. And the curriculum has proven itself to be that roadmap to get us to that place. So whenever, I enter into a classroom or any type of learning environment, and I just see somebody just winging it, just up there, just freestyling it, it does cause concern for me, because it is too serious. Like, the same level of urgency Booker T. Washington had, right? W.E.B. Du Bois had. You still have whole cities, right? Whole cities of black people who are not as literate as they should be, right? There's a city I'm gonna name because I think I am being recorded, but there's a city, right, where there's one school system where not one black boy is reading on grade level.
That's ridiculous,
right? And it is 2022.
Yeah, that's ridiculous,
right? So I think we just have to really figure out what the goal is. If the goal is it's so many different goals, but if the goal is to make our children well-rounded, good-hearted people, right, who have the skills to be productive citizens, and that's one thing. But then also, too, we have to understand that each student that's in our care also has a trajectory and a purpose, right? We have to make sure that they're able to have the skills and the tools that they need so that they're able to be successful. Like, I can't imagine me being in a high school setting and me not knowing how to read, but then I go to Tuskegee and then sit into some of those classrooms, I would fail. I would fail. So, yes, I do lean on the curriculum now because of that very reason.
Yeah, no, I know exactly how that feeling is. Man, when I went down there, I was like, I had a love for animals. So I was like, I'm going to do animal science. But what I didn't realize was everybody that went in that class, they had experience in something as far as like volunteering, at a shelter, took classes before that. I was a blank page. It was difficult. So I feel you when you said that. And I want to ask you how do you solve behavioral aspects, how to to separate, is a child acting up just to be acting up, or is it a deeper problem? How do you handle that?
Yeah, discipline is my favorite. I'm gonna say that. I love discipline. That's like my favorite thing to do in the schools, and it is something that you really have to be skilled at. It is not as simple as telling little Demarcus to go have a seat in a chair, right? Like, these are human beings, and we have to treat them as such. There's a reason for every action that we see, right? There's a little reason why students are misbehaving. There's a reason why students are trying to get out of the classroom. And we have to, as administrators, as educators, teachers, whoever you are in education, like, you have to realize that. So I think when it comes down to discipline, you do have to get to the heart of the issue. But here's the deal, right? The deal is I'm running a school. Right? I'm running to school. I get all of that, and I understand that because I deal with black children. My heart is black children. Point blank, period, right? Black children. And when we get out into the world, right, as black people, there is expectations of us, right? So I try not to do the hand holding, lighting candles and singing kumbaya with the child and being the child's therapist. All those things play its part. We actually have therapists in the school, right? But that's not necessarily my role. My role is to make sure that I'm educating students, right? Or making sure that they have the tools that they need so that they're competent out in the world. Right. So when it comes down to discipline, we are getting away, and I'm glad that you asked that question. And I think all educators need to really listen to this because I think we're moving more into like we're responding in a therapeutic space, which is great. And I'm glad we're like that because I don't know, we're all black men, right? Yeah. So we've been in spaces where we were told to go stand in the corner and put your face in the corner and not say anything. Like we literally were like dehumanized in that way. Or I remember being told to like put my head down and just don't talk. Right? You know what I'm saying? But no, we are listening to our kids more, which is great. We are, responding in different ways, which is great. However, there needs to be balance.
Tastefulness.
Right? Yeah, there needs to be balance. Because now we're listening to a space where children are kind of like directing the adults on how things should go. And let me say this. I'm a principal, right? And I tell my students all the time, it's only one in here, right? And at the end of the day, what I'm trying to get them to understand is that even though we want to honor and recognize that piece because that is very, very important, I think we're losing the disciplinary part, which causes us to be disciplined. For an example, when I talk about discipline, I'm not just talking about like sitting down and just being quiet, right? That's what we were told when we were in school, right? Yeah. But being disciplined also is about knowing how to be a student. Right? How to go to the library, how to read, you have to be disciplined in order to be a student. And that's one of the things that we try to teach when we are working with our students. Holding students accountable is important. Because if we don't, what's going to end up happening is they're going to have this something called learned helplessness where, well, I have this going on. This is why my behavior is the way it is. And now they feel like these excuses are okay, when in fact it's not. So what I'm saying is, I'm not saying we should throw out therapeutics. I think that's wonderful. But what I'm calling for is balance. Yeah. We have to have order, and we have to follow through with those expectations. And I'm noticing, like, this generation, right? This generation, for so many different reasons, we know better, so we do better. So when we were like young, you touched the stove, and your mom said, "Don't touch the stove." But then you said, "Why?" What did she say? Because I told you so. Right? That was no education.
Yeah, instead of explaining.
Yeah. So I get that. Okay, now we're in that space, but at the same time, we have to make sure that we're honoring, the balance between the two.
Mm-hmm. So you told us that you like had a passion like from educating. Did that come from like seeing somebody and that like inspired you, or that come from you learning yourself and just wanted to pass that on?
Yeah, I actually don't know. I really don't. I just know that when I was young, I'm talking about as young as 5.
Wow.
I just knew, like, I remember my kindergarten teacher would ask me, like, ask everybody, like, what do you want to do? And I always said a teacher. I don't really know where that passion came from. And I don't have educators in my family. Like, usually, like, when you have these, when you have these educators, there's, like, some lineage there. Like, oh, my father was an educator, or my mother was an educator. I have no educators in my family. So I don't know. I don't know where it came from.
I mean, when I seen you first teaching, because you was teaching first at Tuskegee, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't surprising when I first saw you teaching because like I told you, I was on the dorm step team, and he was one of the big bros that taught us the step, and he taught most of the step. And out of all the big bros, he was like the best at teaching us the step, how to break it down and all that. Hey, this is how you do it. 1, 2. You know what I'm saying? So when he decided to be a teacher, I was like, that makes a lot of sense.
I was like, you forgot the form in the dorms. I don't know if you remember the form in the dorms I used to do on Thursdays.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, and bro, like he was always teaching, even when we was in school together. You know what I'm saying? So like to see you, where you at now is It's great to see you. Actually, when I wanted to have you on, I was thinking about the parallels between y'all two. Because when I first met y'all was like skinny, was soft spoken, you know what I'm saying? You know, still had y'all personality, but y'all glowed up so well and found your voice, put a little muscle on. Him a little bit more than you. He I'm like, damn, I see you guys.
See, so don't, right, see, so, I got this jacket on. Don't let the jacket fool you.
You know what I'm saying? I'm just glad to see where you at, you know what I'm saying? And glad to see you in the city, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Because I'm from here, and you know what I'm saying? I don't really see, too many people, from Tuskegee around here, you know. See, and I see a couple people, because people got their jobs and all that. But I'm glad that you in my city making a difference, at a school that that need it. So you are an assistant principal or the principal?
No, I'm an assistant principal.
Okay. How is that, like, that title?
Yeah, it's critical. Your assistant principal is like the backbone of any school.
Mm-hmm.
Of any school. When you're talking about like actually moving students to point A to point B, and what I mean by that is you have a child who is not reading on grade level, down reading on grade level. It's usually the assistant principal who's pushing that. So, I mean, my day-to-day duties are like endless. My day is never over. Like I said, I had some deadlines I had to be before I got here. Right? You know what I'm saying? So, like, my day is never over. We handle everything. 1 minute I'm the security, next minute I'm the doctor, then I'm a teacher. Hey, a teacher out, guess who's going in to hold the class? It's the assistant principal. When the principal's out, guess who the principal is? That's me. If there's a situation out in the community, then, I'm the bridge between everybody. Like, I'm the bridge between parents, to the school, students, to the administration to the team. It's just a lot that plays into it. So it's a critical role. But the most important part of my role, honestly, though, is to clear the pathway so that my teachers can teach. That's like, if I had to like really define my role in just one sentence, it is to clear the pathway so that my teachers can teach. And that's easy. That's easier said than done. But that's the key part of my role.
That's cool.
Because you've been an educator. You are second in charge at your school. So, what do you think of states trying to change history?
Oh man,
when it comes to our history specifically.
I mean, they always did it.
Yeah, I mean, it would, but see, because when we were growing up, our history was already watered down. We didn't know it at the time. We know it now, but now, even more so, now you have states who have already passed legislation to change what is taught in schools. So as someone who has been an educator and is an administrator, from your perspective, have you seen that within where you sit and where you are, and two, like what is your opinion on that?
I have to agree with you that this has been an issue for many years, but I think the pandemic caused us to pause, to really think about a number of structural things, and education was kind of one of them. I think we were really more so focused on criminal justice reform during that time. Yeah. If the history books will tell it, that's probably what it'll say. Right. But education, to be honest with you, we missed a big part of how we could really impact change. And the southern states, y'all got to remember, I'm from Alabama, and you lived in Alabama. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So the whole thing really with it is that they are trying to alter the future by not trying to educate us about the history, right? Mm-hmm. Because that's how you move forward. Honestly, that's how you move forward with further clarity, because you understand the past. Yeah. So I think a lot of times the people who control these narratives, who control these stories, they want to miseducate, they want to uneducate, right, us, so they're able to control us. Schools now really have become the social reproduction of our society. Like, if you want to control society, control education. Right, there's this book, I love this book. It's called 1984 by George Orwell. And it talks about, like, basically how to control people, right? Well, it talks about a number of things, but that's one of the things it talks about. And it would talk about, like, misinformation, alternate facts, you know what I'm saying? And when you don't educate people on who they are, they start looking for something, and then what's happening now is there's images out there of who we are, so everybody's following that. Look at our young people. Look at what they're doing. Like, a lot of them are super smart, but they don't want to go that route, right? A lot of them are should be doctors and lawyers, and I would just go say teachers, because we usually hear doctors and lawyers, but they have purposes, right? Engineers, whatever. But a lot of them don't want to go that route.
It's not glamorized.
It's not glamorized, right? They want to be the rappers, the basketball players, the football players, all those different things. So what I'm saying is, I think that this is what's always been. We have to also understand, too, that public education was never meant for black people.
Nope.
Public education was never meant, and let's also be very clear, public education was a black person's idea. Remember, in the times of slavery, there was no such thing as public education, right? Nobody was paying taxes to educate anybody. Like, whenever schools were in, churches were doing that, right? When we became free as black people, we had nothing. Nothing. We had nowhere to go. We had no education. We had none of that, right? So in order to, like, excuse me, to control the masses of black people, they put schools in place. And what else did they put in place? Prisons. To control us, right? So now we got schools controlling our minds. Now we got prisons controlling our bodies. And then we have religion controlling our spirit. That's slavery all over again. And all we see now is this variation of slavery, which is this neo-slavery, where it's, let's make sure we just miseducate them, right? Undereducate them so they don't know who they are, so we can teach them and shape and mold them who we want them to be. I could talk all day long about that, but it is slavery all over again, and slavery never died. It just always transformed into something new.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why that's what makes it, and this is why I always revert back to the homes, right? Because, and we've talked about this before, we have all this technology at our disposal. We can look up and find anything we want.
Yeah.
But we don't. We don't. We channel our energy and attention towards things that has nothing to do with the progression of us.
And we ask a lot of questions that we can just Google. You know, we can look up, you know. It's a lot of, this is one dude that I follow named Conscious Lee. He said, research over me search. You know what I'm saying? Do your research before you start doing headcanon about what you think it is. You know what I'm saying? And like the power of, you know, history is important. Because when you're growing up, man, we thought Christopher Columbus was a superhero. We looked up, like, we really thought he, you know what I'm saying, he did something. He ain't do nothing.
Right.
For real. And the whole reason why he got to where he was at, and the navigator was what? A black man. You know what I'm saying? The miseducation, it did a lot. You know what I'm saying? And I'm kind of, that's like, it's a double-edged sword. The fact, because we talked about how this generation is so, you know, they know a lot because of the, you know, internet and all that. It's a good thing as well, because you can, you know, educate yourself furthermore, deeper than the curriculum that you taught in school, and really understand your history and your past so you can know, you know, better your future. Right. You know, so like that's such a big thing that I want, you know, to like one day that we can actually learn, like be taught, like act like 100% accurate about what happened in this country, you know, in this world, period. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
That's part of what I'm saying too. Is we're not going to be taught unless we seek it out ourselves. The system is not going to teach us.
I agree.
What we need to know about ourselves. We have to go back into our own communities and our own homes and teach it to our kids when we have kids, to our family members, and to our friends. Because remember that clip? I don't know if you've seen that. I had posted on Instagram. Tom Hanks was talking about how when he was growing up, he knew nothing about Black Wall Street.
Yeah.
He knew nothing about it. And when he eventually did learn it well into his adult life, he was like, "Why was I not taught this?"
Yeah, but I also think too, if you teach that, it's an admission of guilt. Right? I mean, let's be real. White people are not going to admit that or openly say, hey, you know, and then they're the ones who got to think about it too. Look at the hierarchy of the school systems. Both school systems are being controlled by white people, but guess who's the one who's actually receiving the product? It's all of us, Black people, right? So it's like this master-slave dynamic going on anyway. But then also too, for me to say, hey, my people, right, did this to your people, and now let me teach it to you 10 times out of 10, you're not going to have that admission of guilt or that what I call white guilt. So therefore, slavery wasn't that bad. I remember Michelle Obama made a statement one time, which she was factual. She was saying that the White House that she lives in was in part, that's very key that she said that, built by slaves. Of course, everybody on Fox News was just like, oh, you know, slavery wasn't that bad. The slaves were well fed. First of all, before we even
there's
get
a reason why Black folks like chitlin and pig.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? That's all.
Scraps.
Yeah, that's all we had, right?
The fuck,
right? And so my thing is, but you see how that miseducation is happening, and it's very interesting just to see just ignorance play out, right? With one presidential candidate after the other, it's kind of like, y'all really believe this stuff, right? Like, y'all really believe, but because they don't want to admit where we are, and let's be completely honest, right? I don't think that we as a people, this generation, let me say it this way, this generation, we're blaming the current white generation for our problems, right? We are two groups of people who are living with the consequences of what someone else's ancestors have done. So now we have to challenge ourselves how we're going to handle this situation. Now, let me say this. I love living in this country. I know some people, you know, have whatever they feel us towards America. I love America because, to be honest with you, we trying. We really are. We're trying to get to a place to where we are trying to provide justice, equality. We are, you know what I'm saying? Now, we can study some other countries where they're not even trying. Right, but in order for to make this a more perfect union, we have to continue to challenge the system and make it better. Because where we were 100 years ago that's by leaps and bounds of where we are now. Right. So I think what I'm saying is we still got so much more to go. Don't get me wrong, but what I'm saying is we have made significant strides. Are we there yet? No, we got a lot of things we got to work on. But I think to your point, that if we start teaching that, which we should, right, as a all-Black school system, we do teach that. But I'm coming from another system back at home, back in Alabama, where if they start doing that, it's like an admission of guilt, and people's egos and people's pride won't let them do it.
I mean, they're not erasing Neil Armstrong out of the school books. First man to land on the moon. They're not erasing that.
Fool, and we really thought they had a kumbaya great-ass dinner for Thanksgiving, cuz. We really thought they was conjugating, had it up. You know what I'm saying? We thought it was a massacre. Yeah. They killed them people.
Yeah.
And they cover that up like that, man. Even though that probably, you know, did something to us, but we at least know the truth. Instead of, you know, growing up and you like, but like how deep like certain stuff go. Like, bro, I found out not too long ago, and she about to laugh. I found out that tipping, you know, like when they tip servers and shit, that came from a reaction from slavery because they didn't want to give them a payroll, so they created tipping. So you can just get, you just, here you go, a little bit of something. Do you understand how that make me feel? Yeah. Even before knowing that, feeling like a slave.
Yeah.
I'm living off of just tips. I'm living off the gracious of somebody's heart that come in here. Yeah. And that's what I'm paying. Bruh. And you go ahead.
I did not know that. Wow.
Bro, I just found that out.
Wow, that's crazy.
Bro, I literally cried before we were going to work that day. I was like, damn. I was like, for real. I was fucked up.
I mean, the things that we've been through as black people is just really, remarkable. Honestly, the fact that we're still standing,
crazy,
the stuff that but you brought up a good point.
That's the thing. We don't even want to tip when we go out to eat,
bro.
People live off tips. But you brought up a good point. You brought up our diet.
Yeah,
something that we don't talk about a lot, but you know what I'm saying. But our diet, we are dying at disproportionate rates because of heart disease, high cholesterol. But look at what we're eating. But look at how we got here, though, right? Mm-hmm. It did happen in a vacuum, right? We were trying to survive like hush puppies, right? Mm-hmm. That came from slavery, right? Mm-hmm. When I was trying to run away, I would fry up this dough, and you know how they would release the dogs to try to come find the slaves?
To hush the puppies.
To hush the puppies, I'll put hush puppies all over the place so they won't find me, right? Yep. So we're still, to this day, we think it's cool, or, whatever. But what I'm saying is, the point of, we have to really study to see how did we get here. And to your point, if we don't teach the real truth about our history, then we're going to continue to make the same mistakes to keep us ignorant.
Tires don't keep spinning.
It's just going to keep spinning, and we're not going anywhere, right? We're not going anywhere. So I think it's all intentional. Schools are not, and this is what we have to understand. Every time you see a school, it doesn't mean education is taking place. Let me define education real quickly. Education is not test scores. Education is not, I know how to read. This is what education is. Education is, I have fully developed to my fullest potential to be everything that God has called me to be.
Glory.
Right? So when you study, we really have to study the ancient understanding of education. So I teach at Bowie State University. And I teach a class called Teaching and Learning, Principles of Teaching and Learning. And the very first thing that I talk about in this class is, and these are educators, and I teach at the graduate level, so they're working on their master's degrees. Okay. And one of the first things I ask the students is, what is education? Mm-hmm. Now, you would think as educators, everybody hand would go up because we're supposed to be doing this every day. Do you know that every year, and I've been teaching it for 5 years, do you know that every time I ask that question, the whole room just goes silent? These are educators, right? Man. And then I break it down. If you break down the real meaning of education, of what it used to be, right? Sometimes you got to go back to the original definition, because sometimes definitions change over time. Education, when you look at it, the etymology of it is, which means to bring forth or to bring out. Basically, what it meant was, if you got gifts or talents in you, as an educator, it's my job to bring it out.
Yeah, to elevate it.
Elevate it, right? Because then now I'm starting to know, I'm supposed to be a veterinarian. You're supposed to be an educator. And it is my job to bring those gifts and talents out. What ended up happening was, we created schools.
Right.
And schools were not meant to educate, right? Schools were meant to indoctrinate.
Right.
And now we're in this space now where it's still happening, and it's happening on our watch, right? It's happening in our generation. And for us to really imagine or reimagine how do we get out of this space, we got to look at the schools and make sure that a school is actually providing education.
Real.
That's why it's important. I to this day, I have 3 of my most favorite teachers I've had of all time, and it's remember Miss Wise?
Miss Wise
from Duval. I don't think you remember Miss Wise, Miss Robinson when I was in 4th grade, and of course Mr. Domper.
Oh yeah.
Right. The reason why they were my favorite educators,
Dr.
is because not only did they teach us the curriculum that we were supposed to learn, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they also like dropped us different nuggets as far as how we could be successful people once we got out of school.
Yeah, especially
right?
Don Prey.
Especially Mr. Don Prey.
He went deeper into the curriculum,
Yeah.
even though some of that shit was nasty. But what's the name? We needed to know that. You know what I'm saying? He was a biology teacher, so you can imagine what he showed us. But we needed to know that,
Right.
and that educated us, you know, in all into the adulthood, and that really gave us, you know, the power of understanding, you know, diseases and all that stuff, and cleanliness and all that. So I really appreciate him doing that. And that's why, you know, I wanted to get on the show, because he reminded me of teachers like that, like teachers like Miss Pooler, you know what I'm saying, that teach deeper than the curriculum at times to, you know, to give us more of an understanding how to be good people within the subject that they're teaching. Right. You know what I'm saying? So I'm glad for teachers like that.
And another reason why, you know, we wanted to have you on is to show everyone else that we have these people still in our communities. Yeah. Right? Yeah. It's okay to want to have, you know, the dream to become an educator, right? It doesn't have to just be this one-way path that it's nothing wrong with wanting to become an artist. Yeah. But do you love it? Mm-hmm. Do you love it, or are you just doing it because, oh, well, this is gonna give me a couple quick dollars in my pocket? Yeah. Or do you love it?
That's the difference. And when you in like, it don't have to be teaching. Just anything that takes a big commitment. If you don't love it, that's kind of hard to put your all into it. Like back in the day when we was playing ball. Yeah, we can tell when people were just doing it just to do it. Or do it because they was good at it.
Just low.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Hey, bro, it's different when you love it. You can tell. Yeah. You can tell.
Because you're definitely not doing it for the money.
No, yeah.
So you got to be doing it for something.
You got to be doing it for something. So when I see teachers that, you know, really put their heart into it, I really appreciate them. You know what I'm saying? For me, it was Miss Pooler. When I was young and I was a little wild, so I had a little teacher aide. So Miss Cooper, I love that lady. You know what I'm saying? Because she did a lot for me. You know, certain people like that. We had on my old YMCA counselor, Mr. Ed. Mr. Ed, yeah. You know what I'm saying? Mr. Ed was one of like the most influential people in my life. You know what I'm saying? He didn't had to do that. He worked at the YMCA. He didn't had to do what he did, but he did because he loved it and he loved the kids. You know what I'm saying? And he put his all and he taught deeper than what he had to. You know what I'm saying? And people like that are so instrumental in people, you know, how people grow up and their success, you know what I'm saying, and the development. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I really want y'all to get y'all flowers because y'all deserve it and y'all so important.
Wow. Go ahead, bro.
I was going to ask, was Erica McDade at Duval when y'all were there?
Erica McDade, I don't think.
Okay. No,
doesn't ring.
Okay.
I was, well, I graduated 2010. Okay.
I'm not sure if she was there or not, but she was an assistant principal.
She was assistant principal? No, I don't know who that is. Because we had, what we had? We had Miller, and then we had Harrison, right?
Yeah.
We had Miller and Harrison, yeah, okay. So. And then our assistant, and then Harrison was our assistant. Yeah, so I don't know who that is. Yeah.
So we didn't really, like, dive in it too much because we was more so focused on the kids. But talk about your interaction with parents.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
especially in the city.
Right, because they're the ones raising the kids. So, and when the kids come to you, they're bringing whatever they're bringing from their parents to the school. So speak on your interaction with parents and trying to, I guess, help get a child on the straight and narrow.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I definitely try to do is I try to debunk the myth that it starts at home, because I don't believe that. I don't believe it starts at home. I believe whatever's going on at home came from somewhere else, right? As for an example, some of the things that we're seeing is generational.
Yeah, glory.
Right? So we say, yeah, it starts at home, but it doesn't. Whatever, if great grandmother called somebody stupid, and that keeps perpetuated, and then now we're in this generation, and I'm calling a child stupid. Like as a father, I'm calling my son stupid. I'm calling my daughter stupid. Then we say it starts at home. Then we're already misdiagnosing the issue. We're talking about generational things. We're talking about trauma. We're talking about poverty. We're talking about being in survival mode. We're talking about health. We're talking about mental health. We're talking about spiritual health. People are not talking about spiritual health, but we're talking about a host of things, right? I mean, we really are though, because sometimes. Well, I'm gonna go that route since you. I'm gonna go that route because I grew up in church too. So I think we misdiagnose things and say, oh, this is that, when in fact it's something else, right? Because we are misinformed, miseducated, or we just simply don't want to go down that road.
That's just the enemy.
You know what I'm saying? Right. You know what I'm saying? Right.
Okay.
Right. And we tell them go in the corner and pray.
Let's just call it what it is.
Yeah, and let's just call it what it is, and vice versa. Sometimes we giving a child medication, or we giving families medication, when in fact, right, it could be a spiritual thing. Right? It could be a spiritual thing that's going on. And a lot of people and educators, we are not trained.
Your kid got ADHD. No. What?
We didn't have ADHD when I was growing up. We just didn't, right? So anyway, to your question though, because I'm not answering your question. Your question was talking about parents. I'm very patient with parents, and this is what we have to understand. We have to debunk all of these myths. It does not start at home, right? There are some other things that has led to how we got in the home, right? Also, too, we have to view our parents as the child's first educator. Sometimes as schools, we think we are the authoritative voice in a person's education, and that's not true, right? When they go back home, that home now becomes a classroom.
Yeah.
Right? The parents are teachers, right? And I'm going to honor my fellow educator because that's what you are as a father, as a mother, as a aunt, whoever you are, right? I'm going to honor that, and I'm going to work with you because at the end of the day, here's my goal. My goal is to get not little Demarcus across the stage, but to have him be successful in life.
Yeah.
So I have to help my parents. Sometimes, like you said, in the city,
right,
parents want to get with me and, hey, you're not going to say this to my child and, all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, I'm very, very patient with our parents because I understand that I got a goal, and my goal is to reach the child. And 10 times out of 10, if I'm going to reach this child, I got to have the parent on board. So, yes, are we dealing with parents who have mental health issues? Absolutely. Are we dealing with parents who raise their kids differently, like as far as morals and values and beliefs who may be different than mine? Absolutely. But the goal ultimately, though, is to get that child to be successful in life.
Wow.
Yeah, I can imagine how many times you heard, well, my daddy said that Bill Clinton, you know what I'm saying? I can imagine. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and you see it.
I can imagine.
And you see it, and here's the deal. You see it every Monday because you work all week to get them to a certain place,
and then they
go home on the weekend,
and
it's like Monday they come back to school. Now you got to teach them all over again.
My mama told me to tell you.
Oh, listen,
dad.
Man. So in the school, in school we don't cuss each other out, right? But at home they cussing each other out. The parents are cussing their kids out.
Yeah.
So then it becomes like a situation where you're having to teach different values, right? At the school, we have one set of values. At home, we have a different set of values. But in fact, we really should have some of the similar values, such as just decency and respect for another human being, right?
Yeah.
Just those type of things.
You heard about, have you ever heard about that 8th grader who basically beat his teacher because
he took a foul?
Yes.
Hold on.
Yes.
Hold on.
Yeah. Oh, man.
You was down the wrong pipe, hold on.
Man, yeah.
Hey, fool, that shit was awfulness, bro.
Over a phone.
Over the phone.
Yeah.
That means that boy ain't never been disciplined at the crib and lost his mind because somebody took their phone. That's what it is. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. And where are the fathers? And let me say this. So my thing is this, right? Some people say we all three of us black men, and they say, well, a black boy need his father. Well, black girls need their fathers too.
Yes.
Right? You know what I'm saying? Everybody, what's happening is too the breakdown of the black family. In order to conquer strong people, you have to study what makes them strong, and that's what they did to us as black people. They studied us. And they say, okay, it's three things that really make black people strong, right? Their family.
Viewer discretion advised.
Right. Oh. I mean, this is not anything I haven't seen, though. It's very usual.
And that's why I brought it up, because
it happens all the time, honestly.
Was the teacher a female? I can't really.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I mean, these things happen as early as third grade, sometimes kindergarten. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So
and like you said, bro, where's his father?
Can I say this?
Was that a little boy or a little girl? Because the blurry, I can't remember. Was it a boy?
I would get with my child. Let me say it that way. Like, there's no way in the world that you would have something like that going on in a classroom.
You would have the audacity to do that.
Yeah.
They had the wherewithal. They had the wherewithal to go through that. That's, first of all, my dad taught me at a young age, you only put your hands on a woman when your life is in danger. You know what I'm saying? She's trying to attack you. That's the only time that you know what I'm saying? So who is teaching that? You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying.
That's why I was saying we have to have balance, right?
Yeah.
We have to have balance. I understand the nurture side of school,
Right.
but there also has to be high discipline and high structure. And I feel like what's happening is schools feminize, right? That's why we lose so many boys in the school systems, right? If we feminize our boys, we really do. We feminize our boys because it's like, oh, little Demarcus, he got problems. Well, we all got problems, right? The world is not going to care about our problems. We have to make sure that we are giving our students the tools to be successful. Because if that boy, I don't know what his race was, but let's just use us, right? I'm only focusing on us, right? If that black boy decides to go attack another woman, right, outside of the school, that the outcome will look totally different. Mm-hmm. We don't give a fuck about an IEP, 504, ADHD, ABCD, whatever letters you try to give these kids, right? Mm-hmm. We don't give a fuck about that in that space, right? Yeah. You're going to jail.
You're going to jail.
Right? But what we do is we handhold and we coddle.
You going into the system.
Right? But it's sickening to me because what it does is, it just leads them to prison, which is slavery by another day. Mm-hmm. And to your point, you made this point earlier that we don't see it. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Out of sight, out of mind, but it's still slavery, right? If you look at the 13th Amendment, I know everybody knows this because there's this documentary on Netflix called The 13th Amendment. And basically what Abraham Lincoln did and all of the legislation did, it never outlawed slavery if you read it. Mm-hmm. It said, the 13th Amendment says, unless punishment for a crime. Like, slavery is outlawed unless it is punishment for a crime. So what did you do? You criminalized being black, right? Let's put them in poverty, right? So they killing each other.
Let's push the drugs out.
Let's push drugs to medicate them from the poverty, right? Let's put religion in there to control their spirit, right? Let's put a school in there to control their mind, right? And then let's put a Popeyes, a churches, a liquor store on every corner, so now they sick all the time. But don't make them sick to where they notice they sick, right?
Make it slow.
Yeah. Keep them healthy enough to where they could work and we can make that money, but keep them sick. So that way they can follow our healthcare system. This is slavery all over again. And as people, as black people, we have to continue to educate ourselves. We have to make sure that we're liberating ourselves as much as we possibly can, because all that happens is it just perpetuates itself all over again. So I was saying, in order to conquer strong people, you got to study what makes them strong. These white people came to Egypt to learn from us, right? You had the Rosetta Stones, you had the Egyptian pyramids. that were not just placed just anywhere. They were literally aligned to the sun, which we understood mathematics, we understood medicine, we understood astrology, we understood spirituality, we understood all those things. But us being the people that we are, right, we opened our arms and welcomed them in, and we taught them, right? And now what they did, they turned on us, right? And basically stole everything, even our very lives, right? Even our very bodies.
History,
all of those things. They destroyed the black family, right? They destroyed black communities, right? Education made us strong. Have y'all met somebody who is authentically from Africa?
Yeah.
They don't play about education.
At all.
Give me one person that you know that's from Africa that just, I don't care about education. All the families as an educator, if you're from Africa, education is serious because they understood the seriousness of it, right? They destroyed our school systems, right? So that's how they kind of took over.
Damn.
You cut the tip of the spear off. You cut the tip of the spear off, you don't have a spear no more.
Not at all.
You just have some wood. That's it.
Yeah. And the jealousy. This is all about jealousy, though, too.
Yeah.
Like, jealousy and hate, they know how powerful we are as people. I'm not even going to get into what I really think.
I'm not even going to get into it.
Get into it.
Okay, so you really want me to get into this.
Yeah.
I really feel that I'm not a conspiracist or nothing like that. I honestly feel we're under attack because we are the chosen people. We are the chosen people. We are the chosen people from a religious standpoint. I strongly believe that they know that, so they try their very, very best to make sure, help them to not realize who they are. Because once they realize their potential and their greatness, right, I just believe we are the true Israelites. That's me.
Yeah.
Right? Other people may disagree with that, but that just makes it make more sense as to why we're hated so much. Excuse me, there's a passage in the Bible where Pharaoh heard that there was going to be somebody who was going to end slavery, and his name was Moses, right? Who was going to really fight against this system of slavery. What did that Pharaoh do? Right, the Egyptian Pharaoh at that time decided to kill every male child to make sure that promise does not come forth. Right, when in fact, when God make a promise, He's going to deliver on that promise,
no matter what.
No matter what. So the point that I'm making is look at what's happening today. Right, black men, even black women, we're being killed at disproportionate rates. You know what I'm saying? We're talented in almost everything that we do. So therefore, it's kind of like this jealousy, this hate thing going on, and so in order to keep control over their insecurities, right, or whatever they're dealing with, they put these institutions in place to keep us at a certain fixed level in society.
Look at our genetics, for example.
Yeah.
Right, our organs. We've talked about this a couple of different times. Our organs. Look how valuable they are compared to theirs.
Look how they want to, white people take what they want from us and, incorporate with them and so they can control it. But then when they get too much, we just straight white now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm like, oh, okay, you don't want to be a whole, y'all want to be us. And I really think what you saying is what triggered the Roe v. Wade situation.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
No overturn. Because who is more impacted by that?
Yeah.
Our women. Because our women are way more likely than anybody else to die from pregnancy.
But then also too,
and that's not talked about enough.
Right. At all.
Right.
At all.
Talked about enough.
And another thing too, though, is when you look at it, not even just from a race standpoint, when you look at it from, let's look at it from a class standpoint, a social economic status standpoint, right? Most people who are saying I can't afford children are the people who are now getting those abortions, right? Or whatever the case might be. What I'm saying is when we look at all of the policies and legislations and system and structures in our society, we're now having to question, how is this impacting us, and what is the intent to keep us in this same fixed position in society?
We got somebody on the line.
Okay.
Hey, good morning, brothers. How y'all doing today?
What's good? What's up, Matt?
Hey, what's up, bro? I happened to go through the Instagram live, man. I seen brother talking some good stuff over there. Shout out to him.
Yes,
Getting that knowledge out there. But I felt like you're missing some key details. And anytime I hear black people, intellectuals, right, speak on the current status of African Americans, we tend to distort information, and I don't think we use enough detail. You hear me?
Yeah,
we hear
you. We hear you.
The common talking point is the white man. You know what I'm saying? The white man this, the white man that. White people are evil. They've done us wrong. I think that is we're not being specific enough about which white people, right? Obviously you talk about historically we're talking about the racist white people, right? But who are the racist white people? If we know our history, the racist white people were the KKK, right? The slavers, slave owners, the people who traded Africans, who traded black people across the world. But the question is, right, what do they look like today? What do the real racist people look like today? What does the new KKK look like, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm going to tell you what they are. And this is something that black people don't really understand, grasp fully, or some of them do, but most of them don't, is that it's the modern day Democrat. Okay. The modern day Democrat is a new KKK. And I'm willing to debate anybody there on the facts. And that's the secret. That's the secret, and that's what a lot of people don't want you to know. See, the brother is talking some good stuff, and he mentioned that he says they killing us, they putting us in this position. But I'm gonna tell you this right now. You know who's killing us? We killing ourselves, bro. We killing ourselves, bro. And I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why we're killing ourselves. And you the reasons why you already hit all the points. Lack of the father. You know what I'm saying? It was systematic taking out the home, but who took the fathers out the home? You know what I'm saying? Which he's talking about legislation. We're talking about laws that passed. Which political party passed welfare? Which political party? Think about this. Had set up Jim Crow, the Democrat Party, bro. The Democrat Party, the liberals, right? And here's something that's gonna blow your mind. And this is something that you're not gonna hear in school. You ain't gonna hear it on BET. You ain't gonna hear it on 95.5. You ain't gonna hear it probably from your professor because they with the shits. They the ones who pushing the bullshit. They, in a way, I call them shills. They almost a way they're like shepherds in a way. They keep people asleep. But you ain't gonna hear this. Look at the black community, right? Where the white people at? I'm seriously, look from top to bottom. You go to Baltimore, go to D.C., there's black cops. There's more black cops than there are white cops, right? If there's more black people in the court system, right, than white people, right? I'm talking. Look at the legislature. Look at the legislators, right? Look at the people represent you historically in your communities. They all black people. You see what I'm saying? You hear what I'm saying? What kind of black people are these black people? Democrat, liberal, highly educated, initiated. We're talking about secret societies now, right? We're talking about Q, Alpha, Delta, Sigma. You know what I'm saying? These people are.
Can I respond to it? Because I think, and I agree with. I think on some regards, right? We're saying similar things. I'm not gonna say the same.
Would I lie?
Yeah, we're saying a lot of the similar things, but there are a couple things that I kind of want to address that I did not necessarily say. So I wasn't necessarily saying the white man, but since you used that term, right, I think we have to define what we mean when we say the white man, right? We're not necessarily talking about people. We're talking about the ideology, right? We're talking about anybody that subscribes to racism, which that could be us as people too, right? Right? We have to fight that because just because we see a black face in a high place doesn't mean it's there for black people.
That's a fact.
Right? Exactly. So I think that I need to clarify that. I'm not necessarily pinpointing white people per se, but and maybe I wasn't clear. And I see what you're saying is, when we look at it from a political standpoint, both all of it is racist, really, right? Democrats, right? Republicans, all of that plays a part.
Yeah.
Even independents, even this new age independent, parties, all of the political parties and you have to understand what politics does. If you really kind of like break it down or like let's define politics, right? Basically, you could define it in one way: who have it and who don't.
Mm-hmm.
Who have it and who don't? How do we distribute wealth? How do we distribute education? How do we distribute? That's politics,
the haves and
right? The have versus the have-nots. Yeah. So I think I just wanted to clarify that piece. I do not honestly believe we are just doing it to ourselves.
Yeah,
I think there's
addition.
But I think but it's very complex. Mm-hmm. It's very complex to the point to where I don't want to say that. I don't want to oversimplify racism and say just because of what I see, that's what's happening.
Yeah.
Right? So the brother that's on the call, I agree. There are black people like me who are running schools, right? Yeah. There are black people who are running cities. Yep. There are black people who are now police officers. But guess what? Who's writing the policies? Who's keeping my paycheck coming?
The black people writing the policies, brother. The black people writing the policies for the community.
Not all the time.
There's no white people in the community, bro.
Go ahead. We're going to let you finish. Go ahead.
No, I'm serious. Like, we got to be honest, bro. Like, the leadership, listen, every great society is always going to come under attack. Every great community, right, there's always going to be a group of people, right, a group of, it can be many different type of outside sources. They're always going to be envious, and typically, if you look at human nature, they're going to want to take resources, right? They want to take land or whatever. They want to control that group of people that they're envious of. And typically, how do you do that, right? If you don't necessarily have to take over a community by force. You could infiltrate covertly, subvertly, and control a community. How do you do that, right? What you do is you take the smartest group of people, right, the leaders, and you corrupt them. And if we had a soul, if black people had a soul, we would say no. See, all these people, you got to understand, all of these black people that are in high roles, all these high black, look at their campaigns, look at their campaign sponsors. You can go on Google, you can go and look at all your favorite little all your little favorite politicians, whoever they are, and you can look at who publicly donates to them, bro. And you can see that they get mega donors, and they're all white liberals. I'm saying the black community for the most part. They're all white liberals, and they fund the politicians that make the laws, and they persuade them. So if these people had a fucking soul, they would not allow themselves to be bought and sold by outside forces. So in essence, to conclude, we are doing it to ourselves. We have to have accountability, bro. If everybody had stood strong, it could be shit to us as a fact.
But see, no. So that's that. So I think what you're doing though is you're oversimplifying what happened, right? We're not talking about something that just happened overnight. We're not talking about something that was just that simple, right? First of all, it took time to get us to that high place that you're talking about, wherever you're talking about, to where we are now. What I'm trying to get you to understand, though, is I think when you were talking about who's writing the policies, it kind of sounds like we're saying the same thing. When you talk about infiltration of leadership, right? When you talk about
by black people. Our own people our own worst enemy are our own people, bro. And that's why don't we discuss that? Our own worst enemy are our own people. Nobody wants to talk about that.
But yeah, it is, and that's why I have to make.
It's the intellectuals. It's the secret societies, the have and have nots. You hit it on the head. It's the people who run the school board. You talk about education. Ain't nobody look at every school board. Look at every black school, all ran by black people. They dictate the curriculum. They pushing all the gay agenda. They pushing feminism. All these things are divisive and they're toxic to our community. You know this.
Hey Matt, hey, Let him make his point, bro. You keep cutting him off, man.
But see,
let him make his point.
But I
my bad.
It's respect, right? All respect, because what we're doing is
we love this.
It's all respect. It's all respect at the end of the day. And I hear what you're saying, right? But this is where we will, and don't take this the wrong way. This is where we all have to make a decision. Who are we going to be as a people, right?
Yeah.
Right? Solidarity. Yeah. And I think until we get to this place to where we're able to have these type of conversations and get on the same page, we won't. There's a lot of things, just to be quite honest with you, there's a lot of things you said I disagree with. And let me tell you why. I do feel like when you talked about, because you kind of was making my point for me, honestly, when you were talking about infiltration of leadership, when you were talking about studying what makes them strong, all this other stuff, it is very, very complex, right? When you start throwing money and politics into the mix, that will complicate shit real quick. You see what I'm saying? And so
the people don't understand, bro. It's not that complicated, really.
Yeah, but it is complicated, because let me tell you why. Because you just oversimplify something that was complicated. Because what you're doing is you're going off of what you see. Right, and things are.
I'm going off what I know.
No.
So prove me. So what did I say that was wrong? What did I say that was wrong factually? What did I say? No, son. You give me something. Give me one specific.
You're not listening to what I'm saying.
You're not being honest to the people, bro.
Because
I'm listening. You're saying things, but you're not specifically saying what I said wrong. What was it? Please tell me.
But you're talking about things you know, but there's a lot that you don't know. So therefore, right, when you misunderstand something, you're gonna mishandle it. Right. So in all things, seek an understanding first, brother. Right. So what I'm trying to get you to understand, though, right, is just because you see a black face doesn't mean that it's just a black face that's moving in this situation. Right. There are many different, when we talk about ecology, right, the ecology of something, we're looking at all of the different influences that you may not even see. For an example, somebody says, I was just bringing this up a minute ago, of how some people say in the school system it starts at home, when I just said it don't start at home, right? I'm going past what we can actually see to try to dig deeper to the root of the particular issue, right? When you're looking at a tree, you don't see its roots, but it's planted by something. So that's the point I'm trying to get you to understand. When we talk about racism, it's not just about what you can see.
Thank you.
Right? When we talk about slavery, we're not talking about what you can physically see. That's the reason why we have prison systems, because guess what? We don't see what's going on in prison right now. We don't see what's going on. So what I'm trying to get you to understand is that it's deeper than what you're trying to say. It is deeper than just the liberal.
Oh, I know how deep it goes.
Yeah, we could go to the conservative side. You could look at the Republicans and say, hey, that shit racist too, right? How they push religion. Like,
yeah,
like that could be racist way. Like the way that they push certain agendas on their end, right? Are you gonna sit here and say Donald Trump don't have an agenda for black people, right? Whatever, new Republican, whatever he's trying to. What I'm saying is, whenever you throw politics in the mix, you're gonna complicate shit. Right? You
complicate. Okay. Can I say something? I don't want to take all your time up because I think this is good. Because right now you give me a platform. I'm gonna wake people up, and people are gonna see the truth. And it takes a lot. It takes a lot of focus, and it takes a lot of discipline. But you have to do research. And I'm gonna tell you I'm gonna break some news to y'all and the people who are listening. It's very important to understand. And if you don't believe me, do your own research. Come on, they're at the root of it all. And don't let this guy who's talking about politics being complicated, because it's really not that complicated. They make it seem like it's so difficult to understand. It's really not. But at the root of it all, what he's talking about, that influence that you cannot see, that's so deep, that it's so crazy that you won't even. I'm gonna tell you what it's called. It's called communism. That's at the root. That's what's deep. It's called communism. Let me break it down to you. Every black person and every black person, right? Every black person who has the same talking points as the gentleman that's speaking, they have an ideology, and their ideology is rooted in what they call Marxism. It's called communism. It's called socialism, right? And they don't come out and say it, right? And it's something a lot of these intellectuals learn in college. I have a master's degree. I went to school, and I went to HBCU, and they indoctrinate you with far left, right, or communist talking points. Now, why is that important? communism, right, is everything that's against the Constitution. If you look at the Constitution for what it says, it's perfect. I mean, you couldn't write a better piece of a better document. But there has been communism in our community by far, and in America. You know what I'm saying? And what's happening is they're trying to subvert the Constitution, overthrow the government, right, and install a new dictatorship. And that's a fact. And that's the root cause. And that's what you're talking about racism, because the number one, if you study the Bolshevik Revolution, you're like, what the hell is the Bolshevik Revolution? Revolution. That was when Russia was taken over, right? And was turned to the Soviet Union. You're talking about the Chinese Revolution, where they had a Chinese dynasty was taken over, right? And now to this very day, this is back like in the 50s, 60s. Now to this very day, it's a communist state, a pure dictatorship. You can go to Venezuela. You can go all these. There's so many countries who have been taken over by this ideology. But what do they do? What's the number one thing? I'm going to conclude soon. What's the number one thing that they do? They divide and conquer. So everybody that's talking about race, all the black people who are talking about race. What did they never? They talk about white people. They talk about but they never have. A lot of these people are being funded by white people, and they're being funded by communists. And sometimes they're even being funded by foreign countries, right? And they're for these talking points. And guess who these four countries also fund? They fund the other side. They fund the neo-Nazis and all. They fund both sides so we can fight. They go on social media and they influence you through different means of communication, right? So it's all subvertly. But I'm here to tell you, the Democratic Party, your favorite politician, right? The ones that run your school system in your community, they're communists. Facts.
All right, brother. We got wrap up. We got wrap up. Thank you for calling in on the show, brother. Hello.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So that was a lot to unpack. That was a lot to unpack. But
the overall, like,
yeah,
this is why we have the show, right?
Yeah.
To have these conversations.
He went everywhere.
And this goes to what I was saying earlier, though, right? That until we really get the truth and education, right, we will always be at this standstill because we're not going to be able to move forward as a race, as a people, because we don't have solidarity, right? Because he's talking about communism, he's talking about what the issue is the issue is evil, right? Yeah. The issue is evil. Slavery was rooted in evil, right? Poverty is evil, right? Murder is evil. Like all the things that are plaguing us, sickness is evil, right? Yeah. So I guess the point that I'm making is like we have to get to this place of where we are on the same page in order for us to move forward. We see this all the time in history, right? You see W.E.B. Du Bois versus Booker T. Washington, right? Now just think about if those two brothers could have really sat down and really got on the same page, look how further along we could have been. Even though I know Dr. King and Malcolm X had two different philosophies, they really were saying the same thing, just a different way to get there, right? So to the brother's point about communism, because I really wanted to respond to that. He is but see, my thing is when you oversimplify something that complex, you're gonna get to those type of results, right? Misunderstanding leads to mishandling. One thing about me, if I don't know shit about it, Dr. McMillan not gonna say that I know. I'm gonna be quiet because now it's time for me not to speak. When it comes down to education, though, right? That's my shit. I went to school for it. Exactly. I studied for it. Not because I just went to school for it, but because I actually sit down and I study education and the politics of education. You have an understanding, right? You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
But a little bit what he said, triggered me to say that. Remember back in the day, it was just like if you black, you Democrat. If you black, you Democrat.
Yeah.
That's it. If you're black, you're Democrat. And getting older and just saying that, like, both sides are corrupted.
Both sides are.
Both sides are corrupted. You know what I'm saying? You just have to, educate yourself on who is right for your morals and what you want out of life, instead of just being, because I'm black, I gotta be, Democrat, or
and you could be neither.
You could be neither.
You could be
neither.
know
What I'm saying? Whoever fits your morals and all that. Because before Barack Obama, who was the most celebrated president for black people? Bill Clinton. Who put in the 3 strikes?
Yeah, I mean, even that's up for debate, though, right?
But still, though. We put him so.
So I think Abraham Lincoln was probably the most celebrated for black people. But to your point, though, right?
Yeah.
Democrats, right?
Yeah, he's up there too.
He up there too. He up there too. It's debatable.
But like Bill
even
Clinton,
him. Yeah, he didn't even free the slaves for real.
Right, you know what I'm saying? Right. To your point. So so it just depends. And I think you brought up a very good point. And I'm so glad you said this on this platform, because that is key. I think sometimes, because that's how I grew up, right? My mom was like, "Oh, we Democrats," and that's what it was.
Yeah, that's what it was.
But you know what I'm saying? But I think to the end of to what he was saying was, do I always agree with the liberals? No. Because I think they put a lot of things in place to keep us in fixed positions, i.e. welfare, things like that. Okay, got it. Right? And let me go back to Bill Clinton real quick. I think, too, politics change with the time. Yeah. Now, when the hell you knew Hillary Clinton was talking about Black Lives Matter, right? She only started saying that when it became popular and she was running for president, because now she has to say that in order to win, right? Politics change, right? Abraham Lincoln was a totally different Republican than Donald Trump, right? Because where we are now as a country is totally different from where we were back then. I think when we talk about, maybe that's another topic for another show, black politics. But we have to also think about who are we politically and how do we fight. Right?
We don't even know.
We don't know.
Yeah,
we really don't know who we are politically.
And the problem is, and I think the overall arching point before we wrap up and before I allow you to have the closing remarks is, the whole system wasn't created for us to begin with
at all.
So. Right. Yes, this conversation is great because it's a good starting point.
He was in slavery.
But I think ultimately you and Matt were saying the same thing. It was a different way, like you said.
Well, we weren't saying we weren't saying the same thing.
It wasn't the same thing, but I think like the bigger point is, like, the system wasn't even for us to begin with.
Right. I think we both would agree with that. Right. Yeah. I think me and Matt would both agree with that.
But no disrespect with him, but just like conspiracy niggas like them, like, it really irk my nerves. It makes my balls itch. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just I be like, bro, like, god damn, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, calm down a little bit and just try to see the facts. Because a lot of what he was saying, that's headcanon. That's me search. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? We can do research. Some of that stuff you were saying, that was a lot of bull jive. You know what I'm saying? Let's just keep it a bean. You know what I'm saying? But his what's the word I'm trying to say? I like his energy. How about that?
But he was loud and wrong.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And so when we have
that's my thing. And that's how we come with our culture.
You said exactly what I was about to say. We have a lot of people who are doing these things who are loud and raw. You know, when you study, I'm a biblical person. Study yourself to show yourself approved, right? So when you get to a place to where now I've been invited to this table, right? Like, I study, right? I have years of studying this particular field and everything that impacts it. I think when you oversimplify system, he said politics is simple.
No, it's not.
That was one of my double majors at Howard, was political science. I've been sitting here right now to tell you it's not. It's not. It's just not that simple.
All right, brother. Appreciate you coming on the program. You got any last closing remarks before we get up out of here?
I would just say that when it comes to education, it is the equalizer of our society. I would like to see education, let me say this, the school system. I would like to see the school system provide education.
Education doesn't mean textbooks.
Right.
That's a good.
I would like the school system to provide education.
You put that on a T-shirt.
Man, great show.
Oh, I told you.
Appreciate you, brother, for coming on.
Thank you. I would love to come back.
Of course. Of course.
We left a lot of things talked about.
Of course, we left a lot on the table.
Yeah.
No problem.
I appreciate y'all for tuning in to the show. Thank y'all for the anticipation, Matt. Appreciate you calling in, bro.
For real.
We're going to continue this conversation.
I like your energy.
This is Spade Podcast. We are out. See y'all in 2 weeks. Peace.
All right.